Alright, this video is about sharpening and the smart ways to go about sharpening. So you do have many options in Camera Raw before you get into Photoshop. One of them is clarity tends to sharpen or give the appearance of sharpening. So this is what the photo was shot at, right? Just type 0. That's what the photo was shot at in clarity. And if I bring it up, kind of notice what happens. Like things get less, I guess, foggy. But what we're really seeing is around the edges, you're seeing a darkening. And that darkening to our eyes tends to look a little bit like sharpening. I do caution you though, clarity is not good to use for portraits because it's very harsh on the skin. However, clarity is pretty, oops, way too zoomed in. Clarity works pretty well when you have feathers or some kind of pattern. That can work pretty well. But I wouldn't take it up all the way. That's just a little too much, and it also makes things look a little fakeish. So you can bring it up a little bit. That's one way to bring in some sharpness to the image. This third tab, of course, is the Sharpening tab. And so here, if we zoom in a little bit, if I start sharpening, you can see what's happening here. Right? Now, at this level, it looks like, oh, that looks really cool. It's so sharp. However, when I back up, it's just a little too sharp. And in fact, this is that over sharpening that people talk about. That's just not natural looking. Right? And one of the things we can see is a lot of, if we go up in here, all of this extra noise, which is really just caused by over sharpening. So sharpening amount, that's like the photo as taken. You can add some, but don't go crazy. Like I tend not to go above like 50. I think 50 is pretty good. Right? It's already adding quite a bit of sharpness. If you go too far, you're just over sharpening. Now along with that, I do still have some of that noise, and so you can apply the noise reduction. Luminance is usually what you're seeing. However, if you're seeing, if we zoom in here really good, you can probably see a little bit of purple and a little bit of green or extra green in there. And that is color noise. And so color noise you can bring up and remove pretty quickly. And then the luminance, right, the further you bring up the luminance, the smoother this looks. However, if we bring up luminance too far, right, then this starts to look very plasticky and fake, right, compared to, right, bringing luminance down there. So again, luminance use sparingly. Don't bring it up too far. I usually don't bring it up over like 35, 30, 40, somewhere around there. So that's another way to sharpen your image. Yet another way is to go to your lens corrections. I'm sorry, go to your FX. No, neither of those. We're just going to cut this part out, I guess, because I'm all out of love. Okay, and so that's, wait, we were on this. All right, so that is two different ways you can deal with sharpening inside of Camera Raw. Then we're going to open the open it in Proper, and here we can go and we'll Command J. We'll make this a smart object. We'll turn that off, and then we can go to our filter and add a sharpen. Right, and I'm going to just go right to sharpen, smart sharpen, and I can add a smart sharpening. Right, this is nice. You can zoom in on this at 100%, and I can smart sharpen right here. But again, this is very easy to over sharpen, especially if you get the radius too far. Like, look at how terrible that looks. So the radius has to be pretty small if you're going to use this effectively. Right, and then you can reduce noise right there as well. And this is a good thing you can change if you know what it's caused by. Maybe the blurriness is caused by motion, maybe it's just lens blur, or maybe it's a Gaussian blur. You can choose which one. Generally, I would stick with Gaussian or lens blur, unless you know the blur is caused by motion. All right, and you can even get into some details about the shadows and highlights, but we're not going to go there. All right, so then we add that, and we have our smart filter. If I zoom in, right, the difference, right, pretty significant. We're getting to a place though where it's a little over sharpened, right? It's just our eyes don't actually see that sharpness that well. So we're going to delete that. And we're going to clear the smart filters. All right, one other way to sharpen is, let me just go back and rasterize this so I can edit directly, is to use your Sharpen Tools. And where did I hide them? Why am I not seeing them? There we go. So behind the blur tool, which is what it'll default to, you have the sharpen tool or the triangle. And this works like a brush. I like this one because you can dial in. So I might want to just make sure his eye is nice and sharp, right? And so the difference there, right? This is where if you know, it is over sharpened, but if you use it selectively, it's really effective. And so eyes, definitely you want to make sure are as sharp as can be. And you can change the strength of the sharpening just like any other brush. Right? This is often the way I will go about working, is selecting various spots, right? Usually the features, facial features that I really want to make pop. And you know, sometimes maybe getting some of these feathers to be just a little bit sharper to give that extra edge, right? Again, I mostly use it for eyes, and as you can see, it just makes those eyes pop. That's another way to sharpen. And then the last would be to just apply the sharpen directly to the image. Right? And it just sort of does an overall sharpening around the whole image. I don't suggest using these filters. I don't think they do much good. Right? As you can see, it does a little bit. I'll redo it and undo it. It does a little bit of sharpening, but you don't have a lot of control because Photoshop just sort of does it for you. So using those smart sharpeners and using the Sharpen tool in selective areas are the two ways I would highly suggest you use your sharpening tools.